All right, today we are diving into a technology that feels a little bit like it can see the future. It's called predictive maintenance, and it's all about one simple, powerful idea: fixing things before they ever get a chance to break.
You know this scene, right? A cracked road, a worn-out part on a machine. The problem with so many things, from our basic infrastructure to really complex industrial equipment, is that they tend to fail when we least expect it. And that, of course, can cause a whole lot of chaos and cost a ton of money.
And that really gets to the heart of the problem that predictive maintenance was designed to solve. So let's talk about the true cost of failure and why just waiting for things to go wrong is such a bad strategy. And the cost, wow, it's just enormous. For a lot of industries, just a single day of unplanned downtime can easily run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, think about it. That's lost production, huge emergency repair bills, a massive headache for the entire operation. For years and years, the way we approached this was, honestly, just not very smart. It was all about time-based maintenance. You'd fix things on a really rigid schedule, whether they needed it or not. It's kind of like changing the oil in your car every 3,000 miles on the dot, even if the oil's perfectly fine. Now, just imagine applying that same logic to an entire factory. It's a ton of work, it often misses the problems that are actually developing, and it's just not cost-effective at all.
Well, thankfully, there's been an evolution here. There is a much smarter way to fix things.
Okay, so here's the crucial difference. It's a massive shift from being schedule-driven to being condition-driven. We're getting away from fixing things just because a date on the calendar tells us to, and we're moving towards fixing things based on the equipment's actual real-time health. It's basically a just-in-time approach to doing repairs.
And here it is, the official definition. Predictive maintenance, or PDM, is all about using different technologies to constantly keep an eye on a piece of equipment while it's running. So instead of just guessing or using old data, PDM uses live, streaming information to actually forecast what's going to happen to that machine, and then pinpoints the absolute perfect moment to go in and do a tune-up.
And the benefits? They are huge. We're talking about making equipment last longer, managing your spare parts inventory way better, and of course, saving a substantial amount of money. But it's so much more than just the bottom line. This leads to way more reliable systems, fewer accidents, and a much safer workplace for everyone.
So, how in the world is this even possible? How can you actually listen to a machine and predict that it's going to fail? Let's walk through the process.
It really breaks down into a pretty straightforward four-step process. First, you've got to collect all the data from the equipment. Then, you analyze all that data to find the very first signs of a problem. After that, you predict the time to failure, how long you've got. And finally, you use that prediction to schedule the maintenance for the perfect time. It's like a funnel, right? It takes all this raw data from a machine and turns it into a smart, actionable plan.
Now, the real magic, the part that actually does the predicting, that comes from using some pretty advanced tools like machine learning and statistical process control. These are basically smart algorithms that can sift through mountains of data and find those really subtle patterns, those tiny little anomalies that tell you a problem is on the horizon.
So, where does all that data come from in the first place? Well, you have to give your machines senses. Let's take a look at some of the really fascinating technologies that make all this possible. You know, just like a doctor has a bunch of different tools to check on your health, engineers have all kinds of tech to monitor a machine. Vibration analysis, for instance, looks for any weird movements in high-speed equipment. Infrared analysis spots changes in temperature that could mean an electrical or mechanical problem is brewing. And something like oil analysis can tell you what's going on deep inside an engine just by looking for microscopic little particles of wear and tear. Now, one of the coolest technologies, I think, is acoustical analysis. This uses ultrasonic sensors to literally hear things that are completely silent to us. We're talking about the super high-frequency sounds of friction or stress building up inside a machine. It's almost like having super hearing. You can hear the tiny ping of a ball bearing starting to go bad long before it creates enough vibration or heat for anything else to pick it up. And look, this is not science fiction. Predictive maintenance is already being used right now, today, to make things safer and more reliable in some of the most important industries you can think of, from manufacturing and railways all the way to oil and gas. NASA even used a form of this to keep an eye on the space shuttle's main engines. It's for real.
So, when you pull all this together, you start to see that the big idea here, the ultimate goal, is really ambitious, and it could be totally transformational. It really all boils down to this one simple but incredibly powerful idea: preventing those unexpected failures. It's about turning those long, expensive, and sometimes dangerous, unplanned stops into shorter, way more efficient, and much fewer planned stops. It's really about taking control back from chaos.
And the end result of all of this, it's a world that just runs better. Yeah, it's more efficient and profitable for sure, but by preventing some of those catastrophic failures in things like our power plants or our trains, it also becomes a whole lot safer for all of us.
Which, it leaves us with a really fascinating thought to chew on. If we can now essentially ask our factories and our machines when they need to be repaired, what are we going to be able to ask them next? It really makes you think about where our relationship with the technology we rely on every single day is headed.